Hi, I'm Roger Belcher. Today's SAMUS video will cover creating a budget and reimbursement with advance and without salaries pursuant to the KHA memo titled COVID-19 Recovery Invoicing Guidelines for Summer Camp 2020. This process reflects a summer camp in which the original contract did not plan to show employee salaries. If your contract does reflect a need to show salaries, I do have another video to cover how that is done. In the following scenario, our example will be for a summer camp with a $60,000 award and a $30,000 advance. Because units of service will not be applicable for financial purposes under the COVID-19 recovery guidelines, all dollars will be shown in one line item, specifically other allowable costs. So let's see what that looks like. From my dashboard, I will go to my approval queue and choose new approval request for the fiscal year 2020 summer camp. I'm going to find my test program and I'll be selecting budgets. I don't want to copy an existing budget, then I'll start the request. All right, so now we have a general ledger budget. The first thing I always do is I copy down the number for my budget, which in this case is 16720. And after that, I'm going to look through the header and make sure that my allocation matches what I expect. In this case, $60,000. That's what I need. And for my fiscal year, I am in the 2020 summer camp. So everything looks good to start this budget. Now, as I said before, this particular contract example, excuse me, will not use salaries and accounts. We're going to put the entire allocated award down in the other allowable costs line item. That's 880 is the line item number. It's down at the bottom of the general ledger. So I simply click that link and now I can complete the narrative. And I'm going to say, and it doesn't really matter what you put here. You can do this as you wish. For an example, I'm going to say pursuant to COVID-19 recovery guidelines, entire allocation award to this line item. And then I will come down to the box below the blue area and I'll type in the $60,000. And you'll note that then fills in the calculation result in the green field and the amount funded by the CSC. That is how I intend to show this. And at that point, I'm going to save the expense. Sometimes people click back to summary and they forget to save it. Then I'll click back to summary. This will take me to the general ledger again. I'll scroll down to the bottom to be certain that I have that completed in line item 880, other allowable costs. For the 2020 summer camp, this is the way you're going to do it if you're not doing salaries. The entire award, you'll want to see it in all three columns in your grand total, reflecting the total amount of your award there. I'm going to save that and go back down and forward it. Now, in this instance, if a lot of organizations have the creator and the submitter as the same person, and that's the way I've set this up. So once I've done this, I'm going back to the dashboard. I'm going to go to my approval queue pod. I see my budget. I'm going to click the name on my program on that budget. I've returned back to the general ledger now for the second time. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. Now the unused line items are gone. And I'm going to verify that's what I intend. It looks good. I'll click submit. Okay. And the budget has been forwarded and submitted to KHA. Now I want to emphasize that you need to look for an email receipt. If you do this step, the submission, and do not receive an email in a few minutes, check your spam folder. But if you don't get it after a while, you do need to contact your contract manager and ask them, hey, do you see this? I haven't received. Sometimes the email systems on our side, on your side, and anywhere in between can be problematic depending on latency of the internet and other issues. So that's something that you want to look for. Make sure you get that receipt. That's how you know that it was received by KHA. Now, the next thing we're going to do is how to do this advance on the reimbursement and the reimbursement itself. So I'm going to pause the video, get that set up, and we'll continue. So before we begin with the reimbursement, I do want to show the email receipts that I was referring to a moment ago. Here we have the budget submitted email. You see it it shows me the program name, the budget ID, and it confirms that it was submitted. And then I also have an example of what you're looking for. The most, that would be the approval. And you see I have the same information. And down at the bottom it says approved. It indicates the person who approved it and the date and time. So these are crucial to make sure that your budget has made it through and has been approved. Okay, so in this segment, we'll see how to create a reimbursement using the special guidelines as described in the COVID-19 recovery invoice memo. Our scenario, again, is that we have a $60,000 budget with a $30,000 advance. We are not recording individual salaries, and we will show all allowable costs in one line item and attach our documentation as necessary. So I'm on my dashboard and I'm going to my approval queue. And I think I'm in the wrong one actually. Let's see here. Yeah, hold on just a second. Okay, now I'm logged in correctly. I've started the approval queue. You see that I have the fiscal year 2020 summer camp. I've chosen my agency name, the area is reimbursements, and I have the period start date and period end date, in this case, June 8th through July 24th. I'll start the request, and the reimbursement worksheet appears. You see it's still showing $60,000 to reflect the budget. And what I'd like to draw your attention to are the fields for net adjustment and for year-to-date amount owed. Net adjustments at this point is 0, and the year-to-date amount owed is reflecting our advance amount of $30,000. When we complete the advance payback, this will zero out YTD amount owed and move $30,000 to the adjustments. Now let me say quickly that for this to work, you must be requesting more than your advanced amount. So if for some reason you didn't provide services long enough or to the extent necessary to request your $60,000 in this case, you would have to make sure you had at least $30,000. If you were only going to request $15,000, it would not cover your advance. You may still want to do the reimbursement, but you'd want to do so with special instructions from your contract manager. So for any reason you're not requesting the entire or more than the amount of your advance, you'll want to coordinate very closely with your contract manager. In this case, I'm going to request the entire $60,000 and pay back the $30,000. Let's start by paying back that $30,000 advance. We want to come up to the Advances and Adjustments button, as you see there. I'll click it, and then for outstanding adjustments, I'm going to choose Advance Payback. If you ever do this step and see anything other than Advance Payback, stop, contact the SAMIS Help Desk or your contract manager. The only thing you should ever have as an option would be Advance Payback. Now then, it shows me what the advance was originally. I'm going to go to Amount to Apply, and I'm going to apply $30,000. You can put whatever you need to in comments. I'll say paid in full, and then I'll click Apply Advance Adjustment. I'll click OK, and I see that that's locked that in. At this point, to return to the general ledger and complete my reimbursement, I click the Details button near the top left. And now I'm back on the general ledger worksheet. You see the net adjustments that had been 0 is now showing 30,000, and my year-to-date allocation balance is still there at 60, so that's what we would expect. I'm going to skip everything here, and I'm going to come down to my other allowable costs. I'm going to click that, and this is where I'm going to show multiple amounts of payments. So to start with, I'm going to click an add payment one time, and just for example purposes, I'll say that this is check number 1. I'll say the check date was 06/10/2020. The vendor name, let's see, this is going to be JEA for my electric bill. And let me get that document to make sure I see what the correct amount is. Let's see, JEA Electric's $250. And I'll say utility bill, JEA. Let's see, and I do have to put something in description because of these asterisks. I'll click upload document. I've got one document there. The amount was 250, and I'm requesting 250. But hey, I'm going to do 60,000, right? So I'm going to come down here and add a payment. And let's see what the next one is. I'm going to get, let's say I do my insurance for training at $2,500. And 2,500 in both fields. I'll come over here. We'll say that's check 2. And I'm going to say I paid that on the 20th. Insurance company. And now I'm going to continue on. I have a couple more to do to illustrate how you can add all of your receipts and invoices here. So the next one I want to do will be the rent for $1,500. And that again. Then I add that amount in. And so I'm sure that you get the idea here. Now I'm going to do one more as an example to finish this off, and I need to add an amount that would round out the 60,000. In reality, this probably would not, yours probably would not look like this, but for informational purposes, I'm going to add the $55,700 is the remaining amount, I think, and I'm going to say that that was for special virtual services. Just for training purposes, this is probably not what you're going to do. But the concept is what I want you to get. Upload that. And you need to click that sometimes or put in the dashes, and that was 55,700. Okay, virtual services. And I'm going to save payments. And I will say too that there's one other thing you could do here. You could add your attestation document if you chose to do that. However, you don't have a dollar amount to go with that. You can, let's see if it lets me put in a 0 amount. Looks like it will. So that's one way that you could put that. You could also put that in the document repository. When it comes to your attestation document, I want you to follow what your contract manager says. And I think that's to be determined on exactly where they want this placed, but you could put it here as an option. So I've got what amounts to $60,000 worth of invoices or receipts and so forth here. You can keep going. We've never met or found the maximum limit. So if you need 10 or 15, it should allow that. Just make sure that you add your documentation for each one. Give it the vendor name and make sure it's clear what that is. So I'm going to save payments. And back to summary. Very good. So let's see what's going on here. So we've got our net adjustments at 30,000. So that's our advance being paid back. We have put in $59,950, where it looks like I was $50 short on the allowable cost. So I could actually go back in if I made a typo, or I could leave it like this. In some instances, you may not take all the money that you were awarded. You may leave a little on the table. It's going to work in the system, and that may be accurate. And if that is accurate, that's the way you want to do it. Let's say, for example, you made a typo, though. I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to increase one of these by $50. And let's see if I can do that now. Like so. Let's say that's what I should have put in there. I'm going to save payments. And that brought it up to 60,000. So I corrected my typo, my math error, and now I'm requesting 60,000. The current request takes into account my advance, which I've paid back, and the remaining balance, I'll leave nothing on the table. So this is a good reimbursement. What are the points to note? I took care of the advance by going up here. I went into the only line item that I'll be using, other allowable costs, and I showed everything that I had documentation for line by line and the amount that was reflected in the receipts. And now I have a full request there that I can save and forward. So that's all that you would do if you're not required to show salaries and wages. This is a straightforward process, and if you have technical problems, you get unsure about how to do that advance, just watch that part of the video, but you can always contact the help desk at samus@coj.net. And please keep your contract manager in the loop with any questions that you may have when you email us. So I think this is going to work for everyone very well. So thank you for all that you're doing in these difficult times, and we wish you the best.